see. So here we are one more time. This is Lou Martin, and I am with the amazing Karen Neumann.
Yes.
How are you, Karen?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Karen's just checking if I've done my absentee ballot yet, because we're a couple expats hanging out in Europe these days. She's in Amsterdam and I'm in Ireland. But it's wonderful to reconnect, as I was saying, and I want to give you whatever space you would like to talk about your spiritual journey. You've been to India for several months during the lockdown. You do a lot of great work with people. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Well, my name is Karen, and I've been living now actually in the Netherlands 20 years tomorrow.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, it's my sort of anniversary. And
yes.
I don't know if there's a 20-year anniversary name, but it's that.
Let's say there is.
Okay. And I came over here for work, and it had been in my mind to come to Europe for music, actually, that Holland was a good place for musicians.
And you are a singer musician. Tell people about that part of yourself.
Well, I grew up dancing, and then I was singing, doing musical theater and things like that. I was a theater major in school. I lived in New York. I did some off-Broadway. I never made it to Broadway, but I did off-Broadway, and then I was singing in jazz bands and things like that. And so that was always, sort of part of my life, but I got tired of New York, and I guess I just didn't really want it. I didn't have that drive to starve, and I started working, and I started making money, and I thought, wow, this is so much better.
This is fun. Yes, but hon, you do great. You do great.
Having a house, and so I ended up living in Florida and working, and then via I got an opportunity to move to Europe.
Right.
And so I did. And as well as just like music and theater and things being part of my life, spirituality was also very much part of my life. And I sort of had three parts of myself. I had my sort of musical part, and then I didn't feel like the musical part would fit in the work part and then the spiritual part at that time, you just didn't integrate everything. And so, so much has happened now where everybody is really waking up and so many people to talk to and stuff. But there were, when you would have a big spiritual conversation with someone, it'd always be like, gosh, I can't talk to anybody about this.
Yeah.
I remember saying that all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. So at one point when I moved to Europe, what was really fascinating is that I had solitude that I had never had before, living near my family and friends and all those things. And it just became a very nice place for me to study, really, and really dive into my spirituality, where it's always been, I have to say, so incredibly important to me. But to have the actual space of time without interruption, without judgment, without any of that, without any influences, because, the one thing, well, you're in an English speaking country, but the one thing I can tell you about being here is that when I don't want to understand Dutch, I don't have to listen. I don't have to be influenced. What's happening in the culture, like on the news and stuff, even to this day, I have a peripheral idea, and I haven't had to dive into it. So I really had this sort of 20-year being in a cave of solitude.
Sure.
But sort of, and in that time, after about the first 7 years of being here, I really just, things just started moving. I mean, I have to preface it by saying everything was always moving, but somewhere around 2007, things started really picking up for me. And I just felt like, okay, now it's time to teach. Now it's time to start doing things. And I'd been psychic and a medium and stuff for my whole life, but I hadn't had any sort of formal training in it. And so I got some training, and when you get the confidence that you know what you're
doing, sure.
Then it also started really developing, and I had found Hinduism many years ago, but just being able to sit down and learn mantra, learn, Sanskrit, and learn these things and put them into practice and spend hours meditating every day. Where, when I was at home, if I would have been home with my mother or in that home, I couldn't have done it. When I was living in Florida and I was always with my friends, and it's a different thing than
Sure.
when you're sort of here and your friends are across the ocean, or so I just had this very encapsulated period of time where a lot of things could develop. And once they start, you go down all these rabbit holes, and and so that's really what's happened. And all the time I was working in the corporate world, and then in about 2012 or 13, I guess, 2010, I got the message that this was the beginning of letting go of everything. And I was like, what does that mean? What am I letting go of?
Yeah.
But it was just my jobs. Every job I had at that point just started dissipating. And, I couldn't, the companies I would work for would literally cease to exist, and I was forced to say, okay, I'm going to work as a psychic. And I had never wanted to do that. I never wanted to work as a channel. I just thought it's for me and I don't want to do it. But I kept everything else I tried to do.
Yes.
But everything else I tried to do just literally didn't work. I mean,
Sure.
did not work. Baffling at baffling scale.
Well, that's called a subtle hint from the universe, my friend.
When a company, I thought I'm dangerous for any company. I go work at a company that's been there for 30 years and then it ceases to exist.
Well, they got your attention, I guess, eventually.
I took out too many people with me, but yeah, so that started happening. And then, that's when the internet started to really take off, and Facebook. And through that, I ended up getting a radio show, and I started doing channeling more readily. And I was on some sort of more prestigious platforms, and I started to build a following and an audience. And in the meantime, that was all the outward things,
right,
that I was doing. But inwardly, I was going to India for the first time and coming face to face with all the things that I said I believed in, oneness and, the Hinduism, and really getting to taste that. And in that, I really found my purpose in service, because when you go to India, you might be a channel, but you're no big deal in India. Believe me.
Sure.
Nobody cares, because every Swami on the corner
Sure.
has been like enlightened, 90,000 times
Right.
longer than you will ever even hope to be. You know what I mean? You're not enlightened. You're a baby beginner. When you go there, you know nothing. And that was really so great to think, okay, I know some stuff, but I have so much to learn again, and to find the purpose of like being in service, like feeding poor people and feeding animals and all of that. For me, that has become for me
a big part of your practice.
Well, the real calling of service, and realizing that, if I don't help in some way in the world to end suffering or alleviate it, I'm in some way adding to it. And for me, that's become more important than any of the channeling or, any of that stuff. And just finding that ability to sit in that presence of being, and knowing that I'm not feeding this poor person who's lucky that I'm sharing my food with them, but I'm feeding myself in another body. And it's humbling when you think, I just won some kind of karmic lottery, that I'm not in that situation, but I am not in any way better if I don't assist.
Right.
you know, and when I was just in India this last time,
Yeah.
was there during the lockdown,
Right.
and one of the most remarkable things happened is that the Rishikesh, the area where I was, is a very much, it's where the Beatles ashram is. It's, you know, I mean, the Beatles ashram is like right down the street. And
Right.
actually there's a guy that lives at the ashram where I go all the time, and he was actually born at the Beatles ashram.
Great.
Yeah. And
Nice one.
yeah. And his dad was a big time devotee. It's an India guy, devotee of Maharishi. But when the lockdown happened, I've been feeding these 2 dogs and then helping feed dogs up and down the whole area for ever since I started going there. But there's these 2 dogs in particular that I took care of. And when the lockdown happened, they were locked out of the gate. And the reality that all of the people were now not on the street. And the thing that's really beautiful about India is there's a whole ecosystem that exists in every little nook and cranny. But when all the people disappear, the cows that are on the street, all of the dogs, which there's so many, you know, every little corner's got their little dog and cat and cow that lives there, that relies on the vegetable guy that's standing there selling vegetables, or the restaurant that's there. All of a sudden, that was all gone.
Sure.
And I had this like almost panic attack.
Right. Right. Bless
Worrying about the animals. And
Yeah.
and Tommy, shh, my dog. And
yes, of course. Timing, Tommy.
He's
Yes.
bowing in solidarity.
Yes.
But it wasn't just me that had it. I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
But because we were locked in the ashram, there was no way. The reason the dogs live outside, and they live on the adjunct part of the ashram, sort of across it's like where your couch is behind you. Where you are is a gate, and where your couch is behind you is the next gate, and the dogs live there.
Sure.
But we were locked in. We couldn't go there.
Yeah.
So I had this panic about the animals, because not only was it those animals that were going to start starving, but there was the other animals that were going to start starving, and we couldn't go out anywhere. Certain people could go.
Right.
But you saw this whole community come together with this realization that all of these animals needed food. And so people were literally throwing food out of the windows and through the gates to these animals.
Right.
And I went to the head of the ashram and I said, if you don't let me feed these animals, I'm going to climb the fence.
Okay.
I said, I can't,
right.
I said, I can't breathe.
Right.
Bless I can't you. Breathe thinking about it.
Right.
And the
bless you.
Sadhvi said to me, you have to feed them.
Yeah.
She said, you have to.
Yeah. Good.
And
good
so I coordinated a lot of people to start getting food and I still do that. I still am coordinating food and everything for them. But when there's so few people, and then there's like this one baby cow that was outside, it was crying, it was starving. You could see like in a week that it had lost so much weight, you know, just because this person was gone.
Sure.
And so we got them moved, and, you know, but it was really through this effort. And I just felt like, people say, oh, it's so nice you do that. But I have to explain, I couldn't not.
Yes, dear. Well, bless you.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
like,
yes, it makes wonderful sense.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe thinking that it wouldn't happen. But for me, that kind of purpose, and also feeding the poor people, you know, there was 300 families we were feeding every single day.
Wow.
Because they had no access to food.
Wow.
But that kind of purpose of literally making a substantial daily contribution to the well-being of another human being was more meaningful than anything else I've done in my life.
Sure. Beautiful. Yeah.
And so for me, I think, you know, this, you know, channeling's great and psychic readings are great, but I want to feed the poor. I want to aid them.
Sure.
And so that's what India gave to me.
Right.
That
So let me
purpose.
just jump in 1 second, hun. So
Sorry,
do you,
so I know it's
you're
a long
fine.
story.
You're absolutely fine. I'm loving every minute of this.
Yeah.
Do you have a GoFundMe or a PayPal or a way
I
that
do have a PayPal that
people can
there's a
support you?
yeah, there's a the
Great.
the I will give it to you. It
Yes.
will be set up for the animals very very soon. It's called We
Okay.
Feed Animals, and
Great.
maybe by the time this broadcast, this isn't live. Is it live?
No, no, no.
Okay. So by the time that this goes live, I will have it set up.
Sure.
We
Sure.
Feed Animals
Great.
and what we do now is I collect funds and we literally buy the food that is
Right.
given to the people that are feeding the animals. So
Right.
because of the transparency, I want the transparency, and there's no organization. It's literally direct purchases to
Right.
be delivered.
Right.
And yeah, so we're
Brilliant.
helping feed now about 80 dogs, cats, and a few cows.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sure people would love to support that and support your great work with that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's everything.
That was that, huh? Okay.
That's everything from birth till just
All
like
right. All
5
right.
minutes ago.
All right. Let me back up then. That was brilliant. So honey, of course, before you were being off Broadway or after off Broadway and all that, you sing, you chant, you
Yeah.
play the harmonium, you play a dozen different
Play the
instruments.
ukulele.
Ukulele, there it is. Yeah. So,
I have an
tell
entire
people,
row of them back there.
there you go. You're a walking orchestra. So talk about how you express your spiritual passion through your music and how you work with that, if you would.
Well, what I'm doing now is I primarily am playing ukulele most of the time, some harmonium, but I write sort of um, a static, how would you call them?
Songs.
Static bhajans, really.
Okay.
A bhajan is a spiritual song of worship.
Great.
And generally, what happens is you have the mantra in Sanskrit, and then you have the English translation. And the way that I end up writing is part of it is in English and part of it is in Sanskrit. And
Sanskrit.
so it's beautiful. And
Yes, I'm sure.
yeah, so that's what I do, and it's mostly now for in my own sadhana, my own practice that I'm doing it. When I'm in India, I perform,
Right. Right.
but it's always in the context of some sort of meditational
Right.
teaching kind
Are
of
these
event.
recorded or for download or
Not
SoundCloud
yet,
or
no,
okay?
they're
All right.
not. But
All right. It's
if you
coming.
go through well, maybe. I did a song. Well, maybe it's not in the top of my
Right.
priority at the moment. I did a song for Swami Dadaji, who is this great. He's the one who started Friendship Day or Forgiveness Day or something like that. And I wrote a sort of a static song based on a prayer he did, and they just made a video of it. But it's just sort of my voice
Okay.
with
Great.
pictures of him. And
Okay.
then I've at the beginning of satsang in India, I always did like intro singing, and then on the yoga festival, I was teaching some
Right.
singing. But I don't have any recordings yet. Just a few little
Well,
ones.
maybe you could send the link for that video. I mean, that would be
Okay, I
lovely.
will. I'll send it.
All these little,
Yeah,
so yeah, good. People
yeah,
can get excited about what you're doing and connect with you and support feeding your 80 doggy friends and
yeah. I'm more excited about that. I would like to have people that would be interested in providing, I don't know, $5, $10,
sure,
euros, pounds,
sure.
Canadian,
Shekels,
Australian, however you got
yes.
it, a
Rubles,
month. And then
yes.
it costs about, I think, $400 a month to provide all the food.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm
Okay.
trying to do.
What about the 300 poor people that you were feeding as well?
Those were fed through the ashram.
I
The
see.
ashram is providing that.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Which
ashram.
which ashram is this?
It's Parmath Nikitan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can get a link for them and people
Yeah.
can know about them as well.
Sure. You can go to
Okay.
parmathnikitan.org. .org or .com. It's on there.
Okay, I'll ask you to spell that for me at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Well, and are you still, I mean, I know you're still working, you do a hotline, or you're answering calls,
Yeah, I
how,
work on a psychic line. I
there
can't
you
say
go.
which one, but it's a
Yes.
pretty famous one.
Good,
So
good.
you go through all the famous ones, and I've been working there for a while, and I do very well. I'm one of the more busy
Brilliant.
psych.
I'm
Yeah,
not surprised.
yeah.
Do you still work with people outside of that?
Yeah, I do sessions. I do private
Okay,
sessions. You can go to
great.
my website, which is KarenNewman.org, and you can get a session. I do little packages of channeling sessions, but also counseling, to motivational counseling, as well as, removing blocks and working through pattern removals and all
Brilliant.
kinds. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah.
And fantastic. Do you want to talk about, in general terms, your sense of what's happening energetically on the planet and into the future? Because that's something that people are always interested in right now, in terms of navigating all these energies, and your own personal take on things.
Well, yeah, I think that now is where people really find what they're made of. What is their core worldview, and what are they willing to stand for or not stand for? What are they, because I think that we've given our power away for so long that we are expecting someone to help us, to save us, to do it for us. And really, that's never going to happen.
Right.
We have to do it ourselves. We have to rise into our own true best selves. And you see a lot of people rise into their worst selves. Or it's been a reflection of what's really inside everyone. It's being vomited out on a daily basis in horrific displays of grandeur.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of healing happening, of people.
but there's a lot of beautiful things happening too, as
Yeah.
far as people waking up to their selves. I think there's
Right.
also, at least in my life, and I can only speak about myself from my own personal experience, but I just find that what I need is so simple. I need so little,
Mm.
and my idea of doing well now is not about getting more, or I mean, if you're a person struggling to make a living, you just want to make a living,
Yeah.
but I think that we put so much emphasis on status and appearing a certain way, and we've lost the substance of the true caring that we can really have for each other and humanity. And
Beautiful.
I know that when I was in school, and this stayed with me my whole life, is that when I was a theater major in college, and my art history teacher, this brilliant professor, he said that when any societies, when the basic needs of any human being is not met, a society cannot thrive.
Sure. Sure.
And we have a long way to go to where we really are meeting the basic needs of people, whether it's safety, healthcare, basic human rights, shelter, you name them. I think there's like 8 of them.
Yeah.
And we have the capacity to do that
Yes.
as humanity.
Yes.
And so my question always now is, how is what is being represented really being put out? Is your first reaction anger and hate, and do you see people more as an other, or are you really seeing them as that starving person that's you?
Mm.
Are you seeing them as somebody with a color of skin that you instantly don't trust, that you don't feel like should have rights? Or are you seeing them as you? And are you looking to the government as Santa Claus, or some sort of magical unicorn that's going to come in your life and save you? I mean, we are, in theory, if we really believe in oneness, we are the government. We are that which is there. So we also have the process and the ability to change it. It'll
Sure.
take time, but it has to happen that way. And
Yeah.
so I think that energetically we are in a state of turmoil that we've never been in. Even, I talked to my mother, and she's 78, and she's got more life than me. And I've said, have you ever seen anything this bad? And she's like, never. So I take her word for it that,
Yeah.
it's pretty crap right now. But my hope is that keep, humanity will go on, unless somebody, pulls some big, then okay, we stop. But we will have the opportunity to change this,
Your your faith is truly inspiring, my friend. Yes. Bless you.
Alternative, really. I mean, what's the
Well,
alternative?
exactly.
You
That's right.
know,
That's right.
I just want to live my truth. There's something
Sure.
in Hinduism they talk about called the 4 levels of speech, that when your thoughts, your words, your heart, and when your action all are in alignment with each other. And what
Yes.
we're seeing in the world right now is how people's words and actions do not match.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So the thoughts that they're having and all these things, and it's about being transparent and accountable for yourself. But you have to be honest about what's really happening, and you have to be willing to look at all of it. And I think that there's this sort of idea within the spiritual community of, oh, I don't push against, I don't get involved, I just want to stay in my bubble. But this is not the time to sit in the bubble.
Sure.
If,
Sure. I
if, if
agree.
anything, your action needs to be informed and conscious, and you need to take big action
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
in any way that you can.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see who stands.
Yeah. Me
Who
too.
stands up.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, hun. Yeah. I'm with you 100%, my friends. We'll either all rise together or we shall surely fall is one of the quotes from the American Revolution, which springs to mind. Yeah.
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 Um,
What's your
and
take on it?
well, really? Okay.
Ah,
you're gonna,
not too much.
yeah. Okay. I'll be gentle with you. Karen and I talk about this quite frequently, as you might imagine, everybody. I mean, and everyone who follows me pretty much knows where my head is at. But I just want to come back to what you're saying here in terms of
Sure.
compassion, and I really, you're a dear friend. I love and respect you. I'm inspired by your example. I'm moved by the depth of your compassion. You're on the verge of tears there, talking about the hungry cow there a few minutes ago. Bless you. So I mean, these things are not abstract. This is
Yeah.
your heart is totally committed to your journey in this deep and powerful way. I mean, that's what I aspire to live as well, is to not be divisive and to not be sitting in judgment, but to speak the truth and to trust the truth and take responsibility for my ability to help people see things more clearly if I can do that, and my willingness to see myself more clearly if others can help me to do that, and to really recognize, this is the most important time in our lives, because like
Yeah.
you and your mom are saying, we are deeply and thoroughly being challenged in
Yeah.
every area of our lives. And I think the next few years are going to be quite challenging for the whole planet. But we've been preparing for this, I believe, in my heart of hearts for lifetimes. And so I have to have the faith, that there is help and there is guidance, and we will know what we need to do when we need to do it.
I have not been preparing for this my whole life.
Well, you just didn't know it,
I
child.
was not prepared.
You just didn't know what was on the agenda. That's all,
No,
sweetheart.
I didn't have, I've never had a fatalistic view of
I don't
life.
either. I don't either. I don't either.
I've
But
never wanted or thought I was calling in the apocalypse or anything like that. And but I don't think it's the apocalypse. I think it's definitely a pivotal moment in our evolution as a species, in the longevity of our planet. And so, but I definitely, I won't say I didn't see it coming, but I will say I didn't see it coming. I
Well,
did, I didn't think that, yeah, I don't think, I think I'm a person when something happens, I'm solution oriented when it's happening, but I don't spend any time uh,
dwelling on it.
hunkering down, waiting for the sky to start falling,
No, no. Well,
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything I'm saying to be taken as
No. I'm just saying.
an
I'm just
absence
saying.
of
I
hope.
really didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I guess I'm quoting our friend here, Patricia Cota Robles, and that's one of her statements is that we have been preparing for this for lifetimes. And it's, again, there's no division or separation in God or in God's love of humanity or even all of life, as you're saying so deeply and so powerfully, so it's the work for all of us is to get our little nothingness out of the way and be of good use to each other and to care for and about each other, and to let love guide us, rather than fear.
Yeah. I mean, I know that it can be startling and it can be jarring and confrontational, but it's really exciting at the same time. And
Yes,
you know, it's
yes,
a wonder that you're just like, really, like, there's been so many times of like, are you kidding me? Is this really happening? Are you serious?
sure.
And yeah,
Yeah, well, we're
you know,
living in a science fiction novel is the way my
we really are. I think
13-year-old
that's the
head,
thing.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It couldn't have been written, I think,
yeah,
to the degree
right,
that it's happened. But I mean, I know that, like when I said about the thing around in 2010, when I heard that thing about this is the beginning of letting go of everything, it truly was. And not just apparently for me, but for everyone, but also notions and preconceived ideas and, the illusion. I think more than anything, we are finding that what we believed the world to be is utterly different. And
yeah,
that's good information for us to have so that we can make informed choices. And I think that that's really important, no matter how, yeah, jarring or scary it is. You can't unknow what you know. You can't forget once you know. Yeah.
sure, sure, sure. The chat, I mean, I quote my guides who say the heart knows what the mind struggles to understand and believe. And so again, when you're devotional, when you're living in service, when your compassionate heart is deeply open, as yours truly is, my dear lady, then you keep coming back to that place of how can I help, how can I serve, how can I, what's God, what is your will for me in this situation,
Yeah. And I think the thing is too about about service is that it lands on you. You can think, oh, I'm going to go do this, but where you need to be, you will find yourself. And when you receive the call, you can choose to respond or not. But I,
Sure.
I, I think that it becomes such a palpable now
Yeah,
thing that
yeah,
you
there's an
you're
urgency to it.
compelled to
Yes,
take action in that very second. And it might just be for a period of time, it might be for a lifetime, but if you ask to be in service, you will be put to work in some
sure.
way, shape, or
Oh
form.
yeah, oh yeah,
You
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Ram Dass's joke, there's being and doing and then doobie doobie do,
Yeah, he's
and
such a big influence for me.
absolutely. So I
Yeah.
mean, like you're saying, honey, with the music and chanting and praying and meditating and being in that ecstatic state, that praising state, that celebratory state, excuse me, things fall away and people have these, ecstatic breakthroughs. We've had them, and everyone who, devotes themselves to healing and loving and serving, things do fall apart so that they can come together in a new way.
Yeah, well, the key, I think, for everyone really is meditation. The meditation is the connection. And if things aren't going really well in your life, you need to go work on your meditation on the subtle level, and things start to move.
Yes.
That's our doorway for connection, and there's really no substitute for it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
There's really no substitute for it. Yeah.
Yes. In conversations with God, God says it's very simple: either go within or go without.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because I do a lot of sessions with people, and they come because they like the channeling and they want to hear the channeling. But what Theo says to people, and Theos, I've had some realizations about my own channeling,
Great.
is that you have to go within.
Yeah.
The people are like, most of them are like, yeah, I try, but I can't meditate.
Right. No,
And
you're
so
only
they don't
getting started.
try. And
Yeah.
they'll spend a lot of time talking about the benefits of it and getting them to try to meditate, and either they do it or they don't. But it's just such a pity when they don't, because anything that's being shared outwardly has arisen from within.
Sure. Sure.
And the real magic is the
Yes.
connection, because
Yeah.
once you have the connection and you have that centeredness and you're very centered and peaceful, nothing else can shake you. And
Yeah.
the Swami in India, he says, when you are at peace, the world is at peace. When you're in pieces, the world is in pieces.
That's it.
And that it's all determined in meditation. And if there's anything going wrong, you need to go back to your meditation
That's right.
first.
That's right. That's right.
And it's a kind of I don't know how to explain it, but like, there used to be a time when I would get migraines. I don't get them anymore, but for whatever reason, when I get a migraine, I just needed to take an aspirin. I just needed to drink some water and take an aspirin, and it would knock it out. But for whatever reason, that was like the last thing that I would do. I would spend all this time like, wondering why I was having a headache, and then reacting to the headache, and then laying down and being in pain from the headache.
Yes, darling, we call this resistance where I come from, but carry
That's a
on.
good word. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
I just
yes.
had the headache analogy because that for me is a real thing. And
Of course. Pain gets our attention, my friend. Yeah.
but the same thing with life. I mean, the meditation is such a key thing. And I'll talk to people and I'll say, do you meditate? And they're like, yeah, I've meditated.
Right.
How long
Past
ago?
tense. Yeah.
Like,
Oh, 10 years
I
ago.
would hope your answer was just a few hours ago. I just
This
finished.
morning. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is where everything, all your answers are. There's nothing that you can know outside as much as you will know it when it's inside. And
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And there's every channeler should just say meditate and leave us alone, basically. Just
Right.
go channel, and then you have no questions, because everything you want to know is inside, really. And I know people have to get there and all those things, but just if you could cut to the chase and really give the antidote, that's where it is. It's in the meditation. And
Sure. I know I'm
I
with
love
you.
channeling, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Well, channeling, absolutely. I mean, channeling is a blast of love and light and grace and inspiration. And, it always brings us things that we weren't thinking about, or a new way to see things. And that's what I'm so grateful about,
Yeah.
what that provides. But yes, so quiet your mind, open your heart, awaken your spirit is the way my guides say it. And as you're saying, so, I think what's shifting in this decade, to come back to the bigger picture, is that we are learning to live from the inside out more deliberately and more consciously. And as you're saying, if something outside is not flowing or working, then, that's where we need to look.
There's something going wrong in your meditation, because the byproduct of meditation is the realization of oneness.
Beautiful.
Enlightenment. I think Eckhart Tolle said it well. He said, "Our enlightenment is not something you achieve. Enlightenment is something that you always have had. You just are remembering."
Yeah.
And there's no, the ego wants to think that you've achieved something and not achieved anything. You've just reconnected to yourself. And there's a humbleness of that knowing that has to be part of it. So, but really in meditation, if you're not connecting to the all that is and realizing that there's no difference between you and me and, you know, us, and there, if you don't have the realization, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And so you got to keep doing it,
Yeah.
because really, you know, that's the purpose of it, because from that informed place of your knowing, of being in that alignment with your true being, then everything else, every other action you take in the world is from that beautiful space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go through your day and you start off in that beautiful space, and then you go outside and someone cuts you off at traffic and you're like, ah, yeah, then you go back and you need to get back into your space. And that's your indicator that you're out of alignment
Yeah.
with your
Yeah.
knee-jerk reaction is anything other than love and compassion and understanding. Then
Beautiful.
then you know that you got to get back there. But
Yeah.
it's accessible and it's free, and we come equipped to do it, and we are born and made with the resonance of our physical form to use our voice and our, you know,
Breath.
ability to connect. So there's,
Yeah.
it's really the cheapest game in town. Really, it's the best thing you can do.
Sure. That's right.
Hours of bliss and entertainment for free.
Yes, tons of fun for everyone, as we like to say back in the States.
And
Yeah.
you become like this better person, and you feed animals and
Yes. Well, you give to yourself, and then you can give from the overflow to the rest of life, you know, because you realize
you suddenly notice that your neighbor is just as, you know, who's been really mean to you, is also, you know, forgotten who they are.
Sure.
Is in pain and acting from a place of unawareness or ignorance to
Yes,
who they are.
darling. You can see through the eyes of love rather than through the eyes of fear.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautifully said. Beautifully said, my friend. Yeah.
With your help, yeah.
Well, you know, takes two. We're doing great.
It does take two. It
Yeah.
does take two. It'd be nice if you were here closer. We could go have a nice coffee.
I will look forward to that. That's a
One
date
day,
I'm happy to keep.
$14
Yes.
round trip tickets on Ride Air.
This is what I understand. They're giving it away, you know.
I looked it up.
Oh,
you did? It was $19, but $14.19 is like 6 of one, half a dozen.
Man, that's nearly affordable at this point, you know.
I think that's the point. It's just like they need people to fly.
Sure.
They might pay you to do it.
Sure. And I mentioned I had a nice connection with a new friend, Robert, in Amsterdam yesterday as well. So now I've got, you know, half the town. It's great. Believe me, I will seriously put that on my wish list and look to doing that as soon as I can. And sweetheart, thank you for this time together. It's been a true joy. You're very welcome. I think we helped some people. I think we lifted some spirits here.
Well, you helped me, so that was the most important thing.
Well, likewise. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I'll leave you to it. Thank you again. And we're going to put the links up, and people can come and support your feeding the dogs.
We feed animals. Yeah.
We feed animals and listen to your music.
And tell me if you like this idea.
Yeah.
There's a couple dogs that we feed that I have control of who's fed, and then there's other ones that. But the two dogs that I talked about that live at the back of the ashram, every single time they're fed, they take a little video.
Okay.
So I was thinking of having like a little WhatsApp group where if people want to watch the dogs.
Well, I'm actually
it gives me joy.
Let me tell you, I'm reconnecting this weekend. This is synchronicity for me with a friend of mine from LA. Who used to be, who was a waitress at the coffee shop that I would go to every day, the Rose Cafe in Venice Beach.
I know that place.
You know Rose Cafe? Okay.
I know Venice Beach really well.
Right, okay. So back in the day, as we say, Arnold's old stomping ground and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so her name is Maria. And so she said hello to me on Facebook. This will tie up here nicely. So I look at her page and it's all dog pictures. Like,
oh, nice.
Well, this is my point, my friend. So she would, I'm sure, be thrilled to watch a video of dogs eating happily. I'm sure
watch Kalu and Shakti have their dog food.
Have their lunch, have their dinner. Yes. Good. All right. Well, we'll on that high note, let's leave it there for the moment, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All my love, and I will talk to you soon. Do we want to talk about Hukalo and your group?
Oh yeah, every Saturday I host the Hukalo Saturday webinar. It's on YouTube on Hukalo TV, and we have a variety of channelers. Lou's been on there a good slew of times, and we have Jim Charles, who's the main channeler, and then tomorrow we have Tyler Ellison. So I don't know when this is going to air, but he's been
Could
on
it tonight? Yes, we could put it out tonight. Yeah.
If we put it out tonight, and then there's just different channelers that come through, and we do a lot with people who are starting. And I try to give people a platform to have a audience where they can, channel and get some good questions. And we have about 30 people in the Zoom room, and then there's people watching. We take questions from the Zoom room, but also from the chat. And it's just 2 hours of good, wholesome channeling.
Yeah, good, wholesome channeling fun.
On Hukalo TV, yeah.
That's right. You can't beat it with a stick, as I like to say.
Well, it's free. It's free, and it's a way for people who haven't seen channeling before to see it, and also channeling is driven by the questions that are asked. So depending on the channel and who they channel and the questions that are asked, there's always something for everybody.
Sure. So. And darling, you do a fabulous job of keeping that going, and you're just one of the best facilitators. So again, I'm just so grateful for all you're doing for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. So love you. Talk to you soon. Okay. Right. Peace, peace, peace. Bye for now.
Peace. Shanti, shanti, shanti.
Shanti, shanti.